We welcome you. I've been having these throughout the course of the past year and a half, and I'm thrilled that that Bill is joining today and that you're all here. We have a pretty packed agenda. And since we've done a few of these meetings, I usually start with the township staff updates. So to the extent that you can, if we can try to get through their presentations, there will be time for questions. But we want to try to get through all of those and answer whatever questions we can, and then there will be hopefully more time towards the end of the presentations to do a Q&A and discussion. Without further ado, I'd like to just sort of start it off. The first presentation for the township will be from the Department of Community Services. We have Norberto Hernandez and Austin Ashley, and they will be giving some updates on traffic safety improvements.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Before we get started with the traffic improvements, I just want to give a brief rundown of what we're doing at the moment with leaf collection. And we took delivery of our brand new sewer truck. Those two go hand in hand because they remediate flooding issues. The sewer truck, which I thank the mayor and council with their leadership, we purchased that early this year. We're taking delivery. That is what cleans out the catch basins, make sure that the surface flooding is at a minimum, making sure that those catch basins are cleaned out and serviceable. The one issue I do want to talk about with the leaves is if the leaf bags, those need to be in the paper bags. You don't necessarily have to get them from the Department of Community Services, but they do need to be in leaf bags, disposable bags. There's been a recent addition. Some people have been putting out their leaves in plastic containers or barrels. That is not acceptable. We will not pick those up. You will need to have to put those into the paper bags. So without further ado, I'll present the township engineer, Norberto.
Thanks, Austin. Yes, as Austin mentioned, my name is Norberto Hernandez. I am the township engineer. Good? Township engineer, have been so for the past 7 years or so. Just take a few minutes of your time tonight to go over the township's recent improvements related to traffic safety and some of the projects that we're looking forward to in the coming year. Thanks. So to start off, the council has made it a top priority to reduce traffic-related accidents, increase pedestrian safety throughout the township. To start this effort, really, primary goal was to reduce the speed limits throughout the township as a whole. So the township implemented a new ordinance reducing all township-owned roads to a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, including special designated school zones, which have a speed limit of 20 miles per hour. This includes certain county-owned roads as well, which were reduced to 25 miles per hour, such as Grove Street, Valley Road, Upper Mountain Avenue, very well-traveled, well-known roads in town, and we're continuing this effort as we move forward. And we know that reducing the speed limits alone isn't the solution. It's part of the solution, but really we need to implement additional engineered methods to really change behaviors as vehicles and drivers are traveling down our roads. And some of these implementations we've been completing over the last couple years is, and I'm sure you've seen throughout your travels, really focusing on key intersections where there's a history of high accidents, crash rates, implementing four-way stops, and the next slide I'll have a summary list of that list of locations that we have implemented four-way stops as of recent. But in addition, you may have seen as well, we are focusing primarily on the schools as well. The township has restriped a pretty large area around the Hillside School and Deer Run School already. We are continuing that effort. Ultimate goal is that all 22 schools throughout the township. The school zones will have designated school zone striping, but we're starting small across the township, and we'll continue to expand. And next year planned is the Montclair High School area, as well as the Buzz Aldrin school zone area. So that's in the works, having discussions with the township, the Board of Ed, principals of those schools respectively, to develop a plan that makes sense and considers as many factors as we can. Additionally, we have deployed numerous delineators, as we call them. That's the plastic sticks that gets mounted into the ground, into the road. That's again intended for various reasons, but primarily clear out sight lines and increase visibility for pedestrians trying to cross the street, and also slow down traffic as they approach those crossings as well. And speed humps, lastly, is something that we're sensitive to. We got a lot of requests for speed humps on X, Y road, but it's a special consideration. We really reserve that for extreme cases, particularly within residential areas. They do tend to have certain unintended impacts, such as noise. They make roadway maintenance a little harder as well, but it is something that we look to deploy when we think it's appropriate. So, as I mentioned, here's a brief list of some of the locations that we've really focused on over the last year, evaluating to increase safety, implementing new four-way stops. Really, we looked at corridors as a whole: Upper Mountain Avenue, Harrison Avenue, Gates Avenue, Washington as well. Those are the three primary roads that we've really focused on this year, but we're continuing to expand that as we continue these efforts all across the township. So, as I mentioned, looking ahead, we have some, what I think, are pretty exciting projects coming up over the next couple of years or so. As I mentioned, Harrison Avenue is one of those priority corridors that we've identified. It's a split between the 3rd and 4th Ward, so we think this is a really good opportunity to benefit the community. Maple Avenue is another one, right down the street from us. We have some plans there to do various improvements by the school. And Church Street, some streetscape improvements there. We had done some work there about 5 years ago. You're familiar with the area, with the new roundabout, increased splitters. Now this is really the final phase of that project that was started years ago, cleaning up the streetscape and really bringing it all together as was originally intended. And lastly, but not least, Upper Mountain Avenue, as I mentioned earlier as well, it's a priority corridor that we focused on, and we have some improvements planned for that. And the next slides will have some just brief previews of each one. Again, Harrison Avenue, primarily traffic calming is really the major focus here. This is going to be accomplished hopefully by a few methods. One, we'd like to implement a new dedicated bike lane along Harrison Avenue going northbound from the West Orange border up to Union Street, the traffic signal there. And along that corridor as well, implement additional measures, daylighting of curbs, which is the plastic delineators I mentioned earlier, as well as diets is what we call them, which is essentially reducing travel lane widths where they're appropriate, which it's a practice intended to slow cars down as they travel. Theory is, and it's been proven with studies, as the narrower space you feel a little more claustrophobic. Drivers tend to drive a little slower in those situations. So just a brief sneak peek at the future of Harrison Avenue. Next slide, please. Next, Maple Ave. This is a streetscape / pedestrian safety improvements project. Have a couple photos here. These are relatively recent photos. One photo on the bottom left here, you'll see this is facing towards Glenfield School. And really the intention here is to improve the walkways along the school, Currently, there's a concrete sidewalk, which is in fairly decent condition, but then there's an asphalt section along the curb line that has deteriorated over time, needs some work. So we're looking to remove that, put in a new paver section through that area. That would be a permeable paver. Again, we're looking to increase stormwater resiliency wherever we can throughout town, and that's one way we think could benefit the area, as well as on the right-hand side, you'll see this photo. I'm sure well known to all. This is Elmwood and Maple. It's known problematic intersection, and we're looking to improve the crossings here, improve visibility, additional RRFB flashing signage. That's the ones you push the button and the yellow lights flash to alert drivers that you're trying to cross, as well as other measures like delineators. Again, we want to protect those approaches as much as we can, prevent cars from parking right up against the crosswalk, which they have a tendency to do in this area. So that's the major focus here, as we again look to focus in the school areas and known problematic areas and expand from there. Next slide. Here we have the Church Street Streetscape Improvements Project. This is conceptual. This is a conceptual rendering of what we feel may be the future of that area. You see primarily hardscaping with, again, permeable material. The permeable brick pavers intended to, again, capture and retain stormwater before it enters into our sewers, just to provide that extra layer of resiliency for the township's stormwater infrastructure, as well as the centerpiece there, the roundabout. We're looking to concrete it with a reinforced concrete surface, which would, allow vehicles, as it's intended, to mount onto it without, as I'm sure you've seen if you drive through there recently, there's dirt and landscaping that gets pretty tore up with the trucks that drive through there. So this would stabilize that area with the potential of a future sculpture centerpiece in the middle. Again, that's conceptual, to be determined what that looks like in the future, but we have received funding through the state for this project, so it's something we're looking forward to, moving forward in the future. I think I have one more slide. I'll go through it and answer any questions. And last but not least, we have Upper Mountain Avenue. This is a project that has been in the works for quite some time, and as you see here, number of factors in this project. Aside from just general road restoration, paving, and curbing improvements, we're looking to really improve the area by installing new drainage along the westerly curb line. That's the uphill side. If you travel through there, you'll notice that frequently, because of the slope and high groundwater in the area, a lot of water seeps through the side of the mountain, ends up pooling along the curb line, which freezes over the winter. So we're looking to install new drains and piping along that curb line, capture that water before it gets to the road, and again, just make it safer and easier to maintain over time. But aside from that, traffic safety, again, is a big priority here. Looking to reduce speeds, improve crossings, install some where there are none currently, and this is just a snippet of the proposed plan, but as you'll see, currently, as you drive along Upper Mountain Avenue, north-south, there's really no change in the traffic pattern. It's pretty straight. It's comfortable to drive. We're looking to make some modifications to that and introduce some new, what we call lane shifts or chicanes. So as you travel through Upper Mountain Avenue, parking will alternate from the east to west side as you travel, and kind of force you to slow down and meander through there in a more methodical way, so instead of just zooming through. So that's one of the major components of that project. Looking to also implement a few speed humps along there as well, where we feel it's appropriate. But again, this is a project that we're very excited about, and looking forward to getting underway. and traffic safety has been a major focus of the township, and it's something that we're looking to continue over the next years, well, several years to come, really, because this is a big effort that the township is undertaking. So I think that's my last slide. So if, yeah. I guess you had your, I don't believe so.
In terms of the slide before, thank you. In terms of the slide before this one, I had asked Ms. Talley at a community meeting held by Rahum Williams, so that was within the past year and a half. There were 2 benches removed from the Church Street area, one which is the demarcation that has the sign saying Church Street Plaza, which names some of the shops there, and the other one was on the other side of Krauser. So those 2 sitting areas have been removed, and she said at the time that this was being worked on. I don't know if this comes hand in hand with your project, but it seems that it would be natural. But I don't see anything about, it's great what the volunteers are doing with the garden in the center there, although I thought that Valley and Bloom or one of those monstrosities had promised something else for that area. But there's nowhere to sit.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that's being considered as part of, again, this is just conceptual. Designs have not started for it yet, but that's something that we're looking to
Thank you.
to consider as well.
Following up on that, the Valley and Bloom developer or the hotel and parking garage developer was supposed to make a substantial contribution to that area that you are now renovating. It was already renovated once. Do you know what that money went towards, or was it used? It was supposed to be applied when the building was actually finished, which is fairly recently.
Yeah, so I'm not Janice, so don't quote me, but from my understanding, that money has not been spent. It is still in reserve, and the intention is for that money to be used towards the development of the centerpiece sculpture of that area.
Is it going back to a fountain as it was supposed to be, or no?
As of right now, it's intended to be a decorative feature of a sculpture of some kind, not a fountain. Yeah.
So to that point, that was going to be my question as well. It was supposed to be a fountain and maybe 3 to 5 stones.
Mm-hmm.
Can you verify whether or not the funds are actually still there, and then share with the public what the plan is supposed to be? Because I think it was during Spiller's first administration where this was discussed and promised, and it's been quite a while now. So if we could follow up and...
Yeah, we can confirm with Janice on where exactly, that stands as far as the funding is concerned that was provided.
Thank you.
With regards to 2 things that you mentioned, 4-way stops that are being placed around town. The intersection of Orange Road and High and Irving Street there have been several accidents there over the summer and in years past. There definitely needs to be a 4-way stop there. Secondly, Maple Avenue, you mentioned improvements on Maple Avenue. Maple Avenue becomes like a gateway for people from South End to get to the train station, and they fly through there. There's one speed bump, which isn't really a speed bump at all, because it's so low that you can go over it pretty quickly and not even notice it. So there needs to be something there to slow people down, especially during rush hour when they're late and they're flying through to get to this train station. So those are just 2 things when you're talking about street improvements. 4th Ward, we don't need to leave that last on the list. Okay. Thank you.
Understood.
Hi, Roberto. We talked about this the last community meeting of this type that I was at, and again with the 4-way stops. And some of them have been terrific. I think what's going on Upper Mountain particularly at the Bellevue intersection, is terrific. You can finally make the turn onto Upper Mountain that you couldn't make before.
Yeah.
My question, again, is about the necessity and efficacy of all the four-way stops along Chestnut Street. I'm up and down that street several times a day, and now you have to stop at every corner, regardless of where you're coming from, because it's four-way stops on every corner. Particularly in the morning when people are trying to get to the train, people are trying to go to school, traffic is backing up. In addition, we talked about a program of education because people don't know how to navigate four-way stops. They just assume if they got there first, they can go, which is not the case. Sometimes it's the case, but not the case. So I would urge you, and I don't know if the new numbers about traffic safety along Chestnut Street have improved at all since all that happened, but I would urge you to look at that again, because I haven't become a traffic engineer in the last 6 months. So disclaim that right away. But I would urge you to look at that again, because in my amateur eyes, it appears that we've created a whole new set of hazards that didn't exist before while we're trying to alleviate whatever you were doing.
I appreciate the commentary and the feedback. It's definitely something we consider. Chestnut Street specifically, it's challenging just with the number of schools there. It's definitely a delicate balance, but as we make improvements, we definitely continue to evaluate the impact of those, and do they need to be changed or further enhanced. Yeah, no, understood. Appreciate it.
Are we documenting this, or should we follow up with some kind of an email on what our concerns are about traffic safety? Or
I would just implore everyone to email or report these issues through the website, through the township, emails, and send us emails, send Councilor Toller, Harrison, myself, because this was one of the goals of the new Complete Streets Department. Is we get so many of these requests, right? And we also want to know about not just crashes. I mean, those are easy to track, but near misses. Those can just be just as dangerous. And so the goal is to really make sure that we're collecting the data and have these decisions and improvements be as data-driven as possible. And also, so that we are following the Complete Streets Ordinance and prioritizing projects, where there are vulnerable communities, so forth and so on. So please do report all of these things.
No, thank you, because I know that we're sharing this amongst us as neighbors, but we want to make sure that it gets to you. So before I pass it, I'm going to take liberty to say something too. Orange Road, Union, Harrison, that corner. The light, when you're making a left, like you're going down to Orange Road, I live on Orange Road, it does not have a left arrow unless you've been sitting there. I request of those in our neighborhood, and we can get them all out here. We're called the Friends of Porter Park. But if it could come on every time, that would be helpful, because there's people that just assume that green light that goes down Harrison means that you can also go down alongside Porter Park. And that's where a lot of confusion happens. So we don't want it to be a sensor light. We just want it to happen every time that green light happens. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we could look into that for sure.
Hi, I just wanted to also reiterate in terms of tracking, coming back and monitoring some of the things that you've actually already implemented before we go forward with using the same strategy in other areas. So specifically, I live on Cambridge Road, and the was it Duquesne? What's the name? The
chicaning?
Chicane, chicane process is not working, and I don't it's a much smaller road than Upper Mountain, so maybe it might work on Upper Mountain, but people still fly right down the middle of it, regardless of it. There's extra lines, which people don't quite understand. Quite frankly, the neighborhood feels like they're just an eyesore. So, before using money to do that throughout the town, maybe just see or have some baseline and see if it's doing what you intended it to do.
No, that's a great point. And that's exactly what our intent is why we started with those two locations, those two schools, see how they run through the year, and then, make adjustments as we need to, as we continue along throughout the township. So.
And one more question. We love in our neighborhood, we love what was done on Harrison with the stop signs, but was there any communication with the schools and their transportation? Because I watch every morning where they will stop on Harrison to pick up children, but then make a right turn. It's like, why wouldn't they just make the right turn and have children get picked up on that street, whatever turn they're making, instead of adding to the traffic on Harrison? So my suggestion is just to have a cooperation with the town to look at the way their bus routes are.
I love to see the bike lane on Harrison, and just wondering, are there other north-south bike lane arterials being planned? And then do they connect to east-west bike lane arterials to allow people to really migrate through the township safely on bicycles?
Yeah. So Harrison Avenue is one of the major ones we're focusing on right now. I mentioned Upper Mountain Avenue. While that doesn't not have a dedicated bike lane, simply because there's just not enough room within the road to accommodate one, we are implementing shared bike lane markings and additional signage to protect and encourage, bikers and make drivers aware that this is a bike route. So that's a north-south corridor. In addition to that, wasn't mentioned here simply because I can't guarantee it yet, but we did apply for funding to the state of New Jersey for additional bike lanes on Cedar, which directly connects to Harrison Avenue, as well as Orange Road, our section of Orange Road, which is from the Orange Union Harrison Light down by the MKA, ties into Llewellyn, as well as Harrison Avenue, like I said. So that's our attempt to kind of start to create a continuous and what we think is a logical loop, impact schools, parks, and there's a lot of commuting in that area, as well as the South End Business District. So that's what we're focusing on now, and we're continuing to develop that and get funding for additional lanes as we can.
Hi, thank you.
Yes,
Nina
Counselor.
Toller, Fourth Ward Counselor. If you could email me this presentation, that would be great. The other thing
Certainly.
is, I was emailing Laura, and she's not with us anymore, regarding in the Fourth Ward that needed some attention. Would you be the person now to email those two?
Absolutely.
Because Orange Road, Irving, and High Street, we had 11 accidents in 1 week in this summer.
Yeah.
I emailed Laura every single week there was an accident, and now we have no one. So if you're the one to pay attention to it, that's great. In regards to Maple Avenue, let's not get into that. Fourth Ward residents that are here tonight, if there are any additional areas that you believe need attention or would like to see get attention, please email me and I will get in touch with Norberto. But I would like a copy of your presentation.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm coming back.
Hi, I had two questions, but I think I know the answer to one, which was how do you start the process of getting the flashing walk lights there? You just email this
Yeah, it
website?
starts with notifying us, whether
Okay.
your local
And then-
counselor.
And then the other one was, are there already any plans in the works for a crosswalk in front of 340 Orange Road, where you have the senior housing there, and they frequently cross to get to the businesses, and people fly through there?
So to your first question regarding the flashing signs, feel free to reach out either to your local counselor or myself or Austin. We kind of manage that process of installation. We would look at it for appropriateness. It's a delicate balance, again, just for the simple fact of as you continue to do more, they become almost invisible. people become used to them. They see them everywhere. You just, okay, this is just another thing. Similar to, we got a lot of requests for flashing stop signs as well. We try and limit those to really problematic areas, as opposed to just placing them at every intersection, because they lose their impact
Understood.
of effect.
Understood. You're from the 4th District, brother? Because you know that street, right? And that, yeah, you've got seniors crossing and
Yeah.
people flying through.
Yeah.
It's
That
just
section
bad.
of Orange Road, I believe, is county as well. So it's something that we'd have to coordinate with the county on to get their approval.
Thank you for this conversation. With regard to Complete Streets, Vision Zero Task Force, presentations, there's a lot of data collection. There's a lot of other examples of creating less risk for pedestrians and drivers. My question is, when will there be an action plan that actually delivers change? What's the time frame in which, after we're having these conversations, for example, today, and emailing the information, which in fact has been sent previously for the 4th Ward and several other places, what is the timeline that the community can expect to see actual change towards safety?
So I could answer that. There is actually a grant that the township received to do exactly that. Janice Talley, the township planner, is actually managing that project, and that's exactly their goal, to develop a safety action plan for the township, identify priority projects that could be implemented as pilots, and basically develop the roadmap that the township can follow. I believe, again, don't quote me because that's Janice's department and her project, but I believe the intention is to have that plan somewhat finalized over the next year, okay, into 2026. I can't say exactly. There's a lot of community engagement that's being handled at the moment, getting feedback and developing that plan, but it is in the works.
Execution of the plan is supposed to happen, because if she's working on a project for this, the development has timelines. Where in the development, you may not have this question, is the actual execution for the particular places around the township?
I don't have that answer, unfortunately, but I will say that we are executing what we feel is important, throughout the township. Harrison Avenue, Orange Road, Upper Mountain Avenue. Those are all areas that I think, are fairly known as problematic areas. But that safety action plan will just, again, further reinforce the township's goals and plans and objectives, and set a roadmap to ensure that the entire township is covered. Yeah. Thank you.
One more question.
Hi. Just one question. At Watchung Plaza, there are lights there now, and that's good. But what's happened is that pedestrians always have the right of way, and all they have to do is walk into the crosswalks. There are many of them there, or push the button for the lights to blink, and they can go. Doesn't matter whether they have the walk sign. Actually, I don't even know if it says walk. It's just a white light with a person. Right. So now that there's a light there, what's happened is that the people who have the green light are going, period. They're just going. So any pedestrians that are around, they figure we're good because we're pedestrian, and so they go, and the cars go. Somebody did get hit there the other day. They're fine, which is great, but there's confusion still about right of way. So as a pedestrian, I don't go unless it's my light, because I know really what's going on there. But other people just go into the intersection and they're coming around. Cars have a green light, so they're figuring, I'm good, I'm going. And the other thing is that 25 miles an hour in Watchung Plaza, it feels like 40. I don't know if there's a way to drop that speed down in the plaza, but there should be, because it's way too fast. You have pedestrians going in 3 different crosswalks and 5 streets of traffic coming to that place. Even if it's in the streets, slow down. Those I find to be effective. I don't know, I do anyway. So having to do with the plaza still.
I think that's it.
Right.
But what's good are these community meetings. So the next one, no matter who runs it, if we could get those updates or whatever, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I do want to thank, so Norberto and Austin, as well as Janice, Tally, Sergeant Karen Dang from the Montclair Police Department. They're all members of the Complete Streets Oversight Board, which was, it's mandated under the Complete Streets Ordinance, which codifies the policy. We made some changes to it, improvements. And there are, the intent is to systematize how we are going to make our streets safer. And so, and part of that is also like, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, the woman who lives on Cambridge, is to really look at each, you know, when we are alerted to concerning intersections and streets, is to really look at each one and see what would work best for that particular area. And it's not just, you know, it's a combination of engineering, enforcement, and education. So every improvement project, every development needs to take into consideration Complete Streets principles, and that's the intent of the ordinance. So next, we're going to have Dr. Lisa Johnson from the Office of Sustainability.
Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Lisa Johnson. I head the Office of Sustainability. I'll just wait till my slides come on. If you can't hear me, if like the mic's coming too low, just, you know, give me a little wink. Okay. So I'm Lisa Johnson. I run the Office of Sustainability with my assistant, Marrakesh Kunlev. And we do a wide range of environmental work. We get a lot of grants, we do a lot of programs, and I'm just going to talk about some of them tonight. I know we have a lot to get through, so I'm just going to touch on it, and if you want to talk to me later. I also have these little pamphlets I made, which covers everything I've talked about. So please take one of these before you leave. And then again, if you want more information, just let me know, and I'm always happy to talk about what we're doing. Okay, all right, so I'm also on the board of the Farmers Market, on the board of trustees, and we already have a program called Double Bucks where we match EBT and WIC and SNAP benefits. So if you spend $20, we match $20 already. We do that with City Green funds and also from our funds. Additionally, what we're going to be doing, we just started doing this, is we're giving an additional $10 per transaction at the farmer's market if you have a SNAP or EBT card. And again, it's in line with what you could spend the money on previously, just to help people. And it's not only for Montclair residents, it's anybody from any town that shows up with a SNAP or EBT card. We will match the amount, and we will also give them an additional $10, and that comes from the farmer's market. So please share that if you know anybody in need. It's a really great program. No, the farmer's market is all year round. It's not as big, but it's still a wonderful market. So yeah, thank you. One of the initiatives that we had received a grant from Sustainable Jersey. It was a $20,000 grant, and with that grant, we put a native lawn in front of the Crescent Deck. Anybody here seen the lawn? Isn't it? It's beautiful, right? If you love native plants, you go there. It's very alive. It's full of bees and butterflies, and we planted 1,000 plugs. We had volunteers that helped us to do this. So 1,000 plugs, and this is what it looked like at the end of the summer. So we had a really beautiful bloom, and it's only going to get better, and we plan on expanding the garden even further. And, whoops, I'm not going to get that. Oh, and with that, right, part of the grant was also having complimentary consultations for people's lawns, right? So we're trying to help people transition their lawns to have more native plants. So through this grant, again, all of this is paid for by a grant. We have a landscape designer that goes to people's properties and helps them to transition. So they give them the plants they could use, the layout, where they should put them. We've had a really, really great response. So we are reopening the list. And again, it'll be in the pamphlet. If you want to get on the consultation list, please let us know. We're happy to oblige. Additionally, with that same grant, we are also doing a certification project. So if you do have native plants on your lawn or your backyard or wherever, you can get one of these cool little inserts, to these little signs to put into your lawn. So you do have to register. You'd have to go online and register and fill out a form. It has to be at least 50 contiguous square feet. It's got to be at least 80% native, no pesticides, no herbicides, and no natives that are toxic or we don't like. Virginia creepers, poison ivy, nothing that is not good. So again, please email us if you want to be part of this. We are handing out these signs, and it's been we've gotten a really good response from it so far. We still have the community forestry program. So if you remember, we received $1 million. 300,000 of that went to Montclair State as a sub-award. We work with them every summer, their green teams. And we have the rest of the money, the 700,000, which we're using to plant trees. We're going to be planting over 125 trees this year. We've done hazard pruning and removal. And if you want a tree, it'll be in the pamphlet. You could scan the QR code right in front of your house on your parking strip. If your site is appropriate, we will definitely love to put a tree there. Something else we did just recently, last month, is we began to expand the tree pits so we can fit bigger, better trees and they can last longer. So if you notice, some of the tree pits have been expanded, and we're going to continue to do that so that we can grow Montclair's canopy. And I mentioned we have the sub-award with Montclair State. So over the summer, we had a green team. We had 5 wonderful students. They were great to work with. And they did a tree inventory. So they looked at the types of trees, the composition, the size. And they just gave us a report. They looked at the heat island, how much runoff we avoid with the trees. Because we know, we can talk about stormwater all day and all night. This is a reality, right? This is something that we have to deal with, unfortunately. And trees help to mitigate that. Not completely, but they definitely do help. So with this program, we're going to continue to finish the tree inventory, and we have it for another 3 years. So looking forward to this, finishing this program out. All right, so stormwater, we talked about that. We're also starting an Adopt a Drain program, and it's also in the little pamphlet that I have over there. We are not the township will not stop our services. We are still cleaning the streets. However, there's always that in between when you have a lot of wind, a lot of rain, a lot of debris, not just leaves, but also plastics, garbage, whatever it is. So we started this program, Adopt a Drain. A lot of other municipalities have it. And again, it's just to help, right? So even now we're in a drought. New Jersey's in a drought watch. And a lot of our trees are dropping their leaves early. So again, this is just a way to help keep our streets clean, our catch basins clear, our storm drains clear, and again, you can sign up for that in the pamphlet or on the website too. We are also doing community cleanup, so this is through the Clean Communities program, and we're going to start that in the spring. It is really great to, be a part of a community that is contributing to the beautification of the township. So if you need, or somebody needs service hours. We also sponsor groups. So if you have a community group, like Boy Scout or Girl Scout or nonprofit, that wants to host a cleanup for at least an hour and a half, we can provide that group $500 as a courtesy to do so. So keep that in mind if you have any groups need new uniforms or would like to do something else, that's good with those funds. So you can email us about that as well. And we do provide garbage bags, vests, the trash picker-uppers, and it's a good program. Something else that we had just been awarded, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. We received a grant just last month for a resiliency park at 399 Orange Road. So if you remember that, that park or that parcel of land was a gas station. So right now it's being remediated with funds that we got through the DEP. And we had just gotten this grant. Luckily, you know, the planning department had this program kind of queued up, and I just ran with it, wrote the grant, and we got it. So we're going to be putting a detention basin on the property underneath the park, and then we're going to have a bioswale and rain gardens and trees. It's going to be a passive park. So again, just one other way that we're able to address some of the stormwater that we have to deal with, right? Stormwater management that is just, you know, always there. We always have to figure it out. Another grant that we just applied for is the Resilient NJ Assistance Program, a regional planning grant. We are already working with Regional New Jersey, and they are authoring our own resiliency plan. But this one is for 8 municipalities. So we had gotten Glen Ridge, Bloomfield, Nutley, Belleville, West Orange, Orange, and East Orange, along with Essex County together to put in an application for this program. So we will be able to, again, have a regional resiliency plan that will focus on stormwater management. And hopefully with that, we'll be able to get a watershed improvement plan, which will help us with our MS4 permit. It's one of the requirements for our MS4 permit. So, and if you look at a map of all those municipalities, you can see that we all have substantial flooding issues. I remember last year in August, there was flash flooding, and in East Orange, the parkway was completely impassable. The parkway closed for like 4 hours. Another grant that I'm applying for is the Natural Climate Solutions Grant. This is through the NJDEP, and this is for a reforestation project at Bonsall Preserve. So not only are we looking to help reforest Bonsall, because we've lost a lot of trees through disease, there's ash trees there, but there are also a lot of invasive plants that we need to address. So again, I should be submitting this, this grant in the next week or two. And I'm always looking for opportunities. So I would, you know, love to hear from the public. If there's an environmental issue or opportunity that you're aware of, you know, please share that with me. Another grant we have is this composting grant. So we will be putting industrial composters at 4 locations, 2 schools, Watchung and Bullock, and then 2 community locations. So it's going to be the Montclair Community Farms and Mount Carmel Church, which is going to be run by the Northeast Earth Coalition. So the composters at the schools can only take compost or food waste from the schools, but the community sites can take food waste from the community, which is great. So we are waiting for those composters to come in. They should be here in a couple weeks. And again, they're in-vessel composters. The rocket right there, it takes everything from bones to meat to dairy, where your traditional backyard composting will not take that. So we're hoping to start this project in January or February. And we're the only township that's doing something like this. Just like the Native Landscape Project, we're the only town that has a landscape architect, landscape designer that's helping our residents transition their lawns to have more natives. Another project we did, we got a grant to put gardens, vegetable gardens at the Mills building. And we had a really great growing season, so we're going to continue this project. So if you would like to join the group, please let us know. We actually had the Boy Scouts build the gardens. It was a great time. We're still doing the home energy project. This is, you know, all this stuff again is in the pamphlet. Think about it. You can get a free energy audit for your home. I did it. I had my whole attic re-insulated for free. So it's not a scam. It's something that, you know, was put through by the state, and that our utility companies have to help us to make our homes more efficient. So it's definitely worth it. And again, your sustainability goals matter to me. So if there's anything that you come across, if there's an issue that maybe I haven't thought about it, please reach out to me or to Marrakesh, and I would love to work with everybody. And that's it. Thank you.
I think we might, you know, we might have time for 2 questions, but one thing that I did want to mention, a couple things actually. The regional approach makes so much sense. We've been really, you know, I think it's really important for Montclair to develop and cultivate positive relationships with the towns around us, because we all share the same waterways, and it doesn't make sense to sort of address an issue in one town when it's just going to, I hate to use this word, downstream cause issues with another. So that's been really important, and I really want to commend, Lisa did a lot of work to collect information and plans from all of these participating municipalities and cities. So that's I hope we get that grant. And the only other thing that I want to mention is, the adopt-a-drain, things like that, anything education. I have to say that Marrakesh is funded by 2 grants, correct? 2 federal grants. And because of our limitations with our budget, there's a hiring freeze for new staff. I think it's really important for everybody in the community to participate in taking care of, our drains and everything else that, we just simply don't have the staff for to respond to, every single minute of the day. So, and the last thing is, I just wanted to share this, it is public. I think it was 2 meetings ago, there was an ordinance. So Mr. Marks town manager, has been looking at the organizational structure. And one thing that was proposed is making the sustainability department its own department. Right now it's under the Health and Human Services Department, but I think it makes sense to make it its own department, considering all of the great work that it does, the grants that it brings in, and because of our stated commitment that, our Montclair stated commitment that we prioritize environmental and sustainability issues. So thank you. All right. Yes.
You have maybe 40 people here or 30 people here, and so we hear what you have to say, but how do 42,000 people learn about this information?
It's on our website. We have a newsletter, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough,
Is there any way to send mail out to every single household? You have a lot of people who don't bother to go to the website.
Yeah.
I'd probably say most people don't bother to go to the website unless they're paying a bill or have a specific question.
Yeah, I'll get a grant for that.
Okay.
We'll do it. And we do emails.
Yeah, there's an email. So if you subscribe to receive emails from the township, there are monthly newsletters that the new communications director has started putting out, and there's usually a lot of information from Lisa's office. So that's another way if people aren't on social. A lot of people are not on social media and they don't go to websites often.
I feel we're not getting the message across.
I would agree with you, yeah.
You're working hard on these grants, and
okay, one more
nobody
question.
knows. What a great job
I
you're
like
doing.
the YouTube video idea. I think that would be fun. One more question, and then we're going to move on to the last township update before we go to the councilors.
I'm glad to hear catch basins being mentioned. The engineer may remember me from the 10 Hartley Street application where I brought up catch basins and with regard to street flooding. And I'm glad to hear, the storm drains are what are at street level that we see clogged with leaves all the time, but the catch basins are underground. And when they get full, they can increase bacteria, increase rodents, as well as add to street flooding. So I just want to say that I'm glad to hear catch basins are being addressed, because when we think of street flooding, it's really from underground. It's not the clogged storm drains. It's catch basins that aren't being maintained. So I'm happy to hear catch basins being mentioned.
Yeah, and with some of the work that we're doing, especially the plans and the grants, there's always more grants, and I know we probably need to update a lot of our culverts, and our pipes are probably undersized. for what we have. So again, we're always looking for grants in order to make it better. That's it. Thank you.
So the last township update is going to be coming from Norma Tassi, Code Enforcement.
Thanks, Rick. And Rick is everywhere all the time, all at once. He really, really is. Every meeting, every place, all the time. So thank you so much. Before I get into the remarks I had about code enforcement, Councilor Shin Anderson had asked Mr. Marks, the township manager, to give an update on the senior hub. Unfortunately, something unforeseen came up and he's not able to join us tonight. So I just want to talk through where we are. I haven't been overly involved with regard to the senior hub, but he did give me kind of a rundown that he was going to provide tonight. The township has retained RSC architects to do the design and construction administration on the senior hub. The architects, the manager, and members of Montclair's senior community met in September, with a small subset of the seniors attending a follow-up meeting shortly thereafter. And another meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. At tomorrow's meeting, RSC will share their design drawings, and those design drawings, with the design drawings in hand, we will go out to bid for the end of the year. The specs will be for demolition of the old Recreation and Section 8 offices on the first floor of 205 Claremont Avenue. That's roughly 2,800 square feet, which will be replaced with a multi-purpose space, a coffee bar, 2 offices, and a digital inclusion area. The construction will be financed through a combination of a federal grant in the amount of $200,000, plus the $125,000 that was budgeted for rent at the Mills building, and $60,000 that was budgeted for furniture also at the Mills building. The RFP will go out as a base bid with 3 alternates. The base would be the multi-purpose room. The alternate will be, one alternate will be 1 office, another alternate will be another office, and the last one will be the inclusion area. It's incumbent upon the township to live within this budget that I just mentioned, which altogether is $385,000. And the next step is to draft an MOU with senior organizations and discuss terms of use. So I don't think I'm able to answer questions on that, but I could definitely take notes on questions that do come up and relate them back to Councilor Shin Anderson. Be glad to. Okay, and so I didn't say it before. I'm Norma Tassi. I am the Director of Administration, Code Enforcement, and Environmental Affairs. I began with the township in March of 2024, and on behalf of the Code Enforcement team, we're happy to have been invited by Councilor Shin Anderson. Okay, so this is how the code enforcement worked. And what I want to mention here is that we work in tandem with other departments, including construction, health, police, and fire. And what I want to mention specifically about the partnerships is that the health department is the one, weirdly, that responds to noise complaints. So the health department contracts with an Essex Regional Health Services that comes out with specially calibrated machines to deal with the nuisance of like repeated noise at the same time. So if you're getting like machine noise, or we tend to get a lot of complaints that we pass on to them when people have complaints with regard to music and what have you in the Church Street area. So it's Essex Regional that responds to them, and we work in partnership with the health department to handle those complaints. So this, through the end of the third quarter, we have done 1,852 inspections, 366 complaint-driven inspections, and with that, we've issued out 1,589 violations. Inspections take place in two ways. Officers are assigned to specific areas, and the areas align roughly, but not entirely with wards. Officers drive their assigned areas looking for violations, and they also respond to complaints received by our office, either by phone or by email. This is also done according to sector. We have 3 full-time inspectors and 5 part-time inspectors, and we're all graciously supported by an admin. These are code enforcement's most common complaints. Gas-powered leaf blowers aren't permitted to be used in the township effective October of 2023. Properties are to be maintained free of trash or debris. Hedges, brush, trees, and grass are not to be overgrown or create a site triangle visibility issue. And that comes into play when there's tall trees or bushy grass that grows, that obstructs the traffic, your sight line while you're driving. Heat and hot water must be available to tenants at all times. Sidewalks and driveway aprons must be kept in good repair and free of tripping hazards. Recycling is to be separated from other solid waste material, and refuse receptacles must be no larger than 35 gallons and weigh no more than 50 pounds each. 3 cans are the limit per household. Complaints are received via phone or email, and matters are assigned and investigated within 48 hours. Records are kept in our SDL system, which stands for Spatial Data Logic, and it's a system that's used in planning, construction, and in code enforcement. It captures the date and the time of the complaint, the date and time of the inspection, and pictures are stored there as well. We also keep track in that system of the date the violation is due to be cured. Violators are notified in writing by a registered mail of any offense that may have that an officer may have witnessed. Most times when a complaint is received, we don't remain in communication with the complainant about the outcome. But an efficient way to ensure that you get the follow-up you need is to, if you want to know what happened, is to file an OPRA request if the inspector didn't call you back personally. And you'll absolutely get an answer through that channel. And then lastly, the current mayor and council edited the sidewalk ordinance for clarity in terms of who is empowered to provide enforcement. The updated version was passed in March of 2025 and went into force in April of 2025. Previous to the update, code enforcement used a 1/4-inch ADA standard to determine whether or not a sidewalk was out of grade or in need of repair. Once enforcement was resumed, code enforcement and the mayor received a lot of feedback regarding this enforcement. As you can imagine, a lot of that feedback was negative, and it centered around the quarter-inch being an impossible standard to uphold, and the fact that many sidewalk slabs had been heaved by trees planted by the township. In concurrence with our engineer and our attorney, effective September 5th of 2025, the township manager issued an administrative directive on sidewalk gaps, displacements, and permitted repairs. This update considers that the ADA standard previously enforced is meant for new construction. The township, as of the date of the directive, has been using 1 inch as the standard to determine grade compliance. So that's my information for the crowd, and I can take a couple questions. I could try to answer any questions on the senior hub, and I can try to answer any questions about code enforcement.
I just have a question about filing of a violation, I guess. Is that done online? So if I have an issue, do I go online to file the complaint, or?
No, if you go online, code enforcement has both the email address and the phone number. So at this point, we're taking violations through those two channels. And then they go into the SDL system, like I said, and they're tracked that way.
So they enter it into the computer?
They do.
Okay.
They do. And if you have to leave a message, it will be assigned from the voicemail.
Anyone has any questions after, you can certainly email me or Ms. Tassi and Ms. Councilor Harrison. Just a...
There's a question over there.
Oh.
The
You mean the
hub
senior hub?
information. Oh, that's not online. What I read from, I emailed to Councilor Anderson. If you're going to be participating in the meetings, I guess follow-up will follow that way.
All right, we're going to move on. And just really quick by show of hands, who here lives in the 4th ward? Okay. 3rd? 2nd? And 1st? Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the next part is our counselor updates. Yes, sure.
What happens to the people primarily in the 4th ward who were issued violations about the sidewalk before the September 2025 change, that there could be a different type of a clearance? People who have already spent lots and lots of money to conform with the initial, before other wards were even gotten to. What happens to that money that people put out?
And that is actually an issue that's, yes, that is a great question, and it's been complained about from people in all of the different wards, like the 1st ward and the 4th ward seem to especially have gotten hit the worst. I don't.
When the ordinance went back into force in April of 2025, the first thing that was done, it wasn't patrolled ward-wise. The first thing that was done was to catch up on the complaints that code enforcement had received from I think it was 8 or 9 months that no enforcement had been done. So there was no plan to go to target any ward first. The remedy or any ideas about what happens to those who made the repairs that you're speaking of is still under consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, by the way, these slides are going to be made available. A link to the slides are going to be made available on the website or via the newsletter. So I'm not going to sort of dwell on the meeting schedule too much, we're just going to go straight to Councilor Harrison. And if we can, I'd like to sort of go right through and then leave enough room at the end of all of the presentations for discussion.
Okay, so we have a municipal building and a police headquarters, which are both in bad shape. The municipal building, over 15 years ago, there was a report saying it was obsolete, in bad condition, and should be abandoned. Nothing has happened in the past 15 years. We're still using it. There are a variety of problems. The easiest example, the roof leaks, needs to be replaced. Because the roof leaks, water got into the elevator stopped working, and it took several months to get new part. New part came, roof leaked, elevator stopped working. This is not an acceptable condition. We are exploring many options, and we are interested in getting your input as to what we should do about this. The police station is actually in far worse condition. It's a much older building. It was the original municipal building. And, basically there's been deferred maintenance because township is going to do something and hasn't, and we've now reached the point where something has to be done. We're looking for your suggestions as to what we should do. We're going to have a public meeting in January to get further input, but if you have thoughts as to where we should put the municipal building, please contact us and let us know. We're going to get a survey online in some form to do that, but just feel free to contact me, or Councilor Toller is on the Facilities Committee, and Councilor D'Amato is on it. Reach out to any one of us and give us your thoughts. Don't self-police yourself. If you think, gee, this is a site that looks big enough, there are a number of sites that are under consideration, but we really want your input as to where you think it should be, what you think it should be. Should the police and municipal offices be in the same building, or should they be in separate buildings? We want to get your input, but we need to move ahead quickly because at some point, people on the third floor of the municipal building are going to start having water dripping on their heads as they work, which is not a good condition. And move forward. So we're looking for your input, and please give it to us, and then we'll make a decision. There are obviously cost issues involved, but weigh that out. There are also possible revenue issues. Sell the municipal building site is the easy example for moving somewhere else to use that as a site that someone else, it's a very desirable location, obviously. There's a possibility of doing an interim thing while we build the new municipal building. But something needs to be done sooner rather than later because it's costing the town a lot of money to have old, decrepit buildings and not good for staff. Anyone have any questions about that?
Okay. Should I go first, or? Well, they say that he's going to cover all this material and then questions.
Yeah, okay, we'll go on, then save your questions. Okay, there are two Bloomfield Avenue redevelopment areas that, what is the word? Need something done. That's the best way to do it. One is the area on the south side of Bloomfield Avenue between Elm Street and Mission Street. This was a redevelopment plan that was adopted about 15 or so years ago. Was done when the Bullock School was being built, was primarily focused on the Bullock School redevelopment. The Board of Education did not cooperate with the plan. They just built the school and the playground and the parking lot. And nothing happened with that plan until recently. A property owner came in with a development on Hartley Street that was consistent with the redevelopment plan, totally out of character with the neighborhood, was approved by the planning board because it was consistent with the redevelopment plan, but everyone realized that the plan that was envisioned 15 years ago is outdated, to use a nice description for it, and we need to do something with that plan, either go back to the original zoning or come up with a new vision, because other than that one building on Hartley Street, nothing has been developed in the redevelopment area other than the Bullock School. The other Bloomfield Avenue redevelopment plan it's referred to as Gateway 2. It's the area around on either side of Valley Road on the north side of Bloomfield Avenue. Gateway 1 was the development that occurred on the south side of Bloomfield Avenue along Valley Road, that the Valley and Bloom development. That the redevelopment area was designated, a redevelopment plan was written but never adopted. There are a variety of things happening in that area. The public service building that is about 100 years old needs to be replaced by public service in order to maintain proper electrical service to most of the township. So that's one of the considerations. As I said before, there's a police station there needing to have something done. So we're looking at adopting a redevelopment plan for that area. And we're going to be seeking public input as to what you want to see on both sides of Valley Road on the north side of Bloomfield Avenue there.
And again, please save your questions because we have a wealth of knowledge here. So the next update has to do with Lackawanna Plaza, the redevelopment. As you all probably know, the current redevelopment plan was adopted by the council before us via an ordinance back in May of 2024. And I just wanted to just share what is the current status. So, and also, the current status is that the redevelopment agreement and the terms of the financial agreement are in negotiation. And they have been for several months. We're working with our township's redevelopment attorneys and really going through all of the terms throughout the negotiation with a very fine tooth comb. The goal is, we must have an agreement that is, that has incorporates all of the requirements that are in the approved redevelopment plan, which include, the number of buildings, how many stories. There is a maximum of 210 market rate residential units called for in the redevelopment plan, and also on top of that, affordable units, 20%, which is equal to 60 units in this case, for low, very low, and moderate income households, and 10% workforce housing. The redevelopment also requires a full-service supermarket, as well as other public benefits and infrastructure, and a minimum of 20% open space. In addition, there is the redevelopment requires a very comprehensive traffic study, impact study, which if you live around there, I live a couple blocks away. It's going to be very, very important. So that's where we are. So once the terms are agreed upon, it's conditioned upon the council approving these agreements, of course, and then there's still after these agreements, there's a whole. That's when the rest of the process really can start, which is the site plan designed by the redeveloper, At the planning board, that's where all of the, the really, the nitty-gritty details are going to have to be fleshed out and ultimately decided upon by the planning board. And then assuming that the planning board approves the site plan, there are other regulatory approvals that are going to be required before any ground can be broken. So that includes the New Jersey DEP review and approvals, county approvals, and so forth and so on. So you can view the current redevelopment plan online. The website is there, and as I said, I'm happy to, if you email me, I'm happy to share the slides with you. But that's where we are with that. So you can go to the next slide. And then just wanted to highlight a few other initiatives that we're all of us are working very hard on. So one is a bit of cheerful news, free holiday parking. This was, a very controversial issue last year, but by resolution in November, we passed a resolution to have 2-hour free metered parking throughout town. So there was 2-hour free meter parking on Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. And this year, instead of having, there was a much longer period for free parking on at meters. This year, there was a lot of discussion about the best way to do this. So as of now, the free holiday parking at meters is going to be from December 13th through the 31st. So basically the holiday shopping season. And this is because we want to support our local businesses and encourage people to shop locally. Also, just a plug for the municipal parking decks, which they're listed there. It's very inexpensive, about $2. I believe it's $2 an hour. And let's make use of those decks. Some other updates. We appointed a new Chief Financial Officer and Director of Finance. She started in October of 2025. She came to us, Dianira Bartlett. She came to us from Livingston. And so she's getting acclimated and really trying to put some new procedures and policies in place. We also, Mr. Marks initiated departmental budget hearings, which occurred last month. Oh, great, yes. They were recorded, and you should definitely be sure to view them. Because we want the public to be informed about what is being presented, and provide any feedback that you have before the council has to take action on it. Okay, and then unfortunately, Laura Torchio, who was the director, our inaugural director of Complete Streets, resigned. But the hiring process was immediately started because this is an extremely important role. And we want to make sure that the policies in the ordinance, the checklists, the review process, the oversight board, that they're all implemented. So the latest from Mr. Marks is that we had about 8 applications come in, and interviews will be scheduled. And hopefully we'll be able to make a hire before the end of the year. Okay, this isn't a really great slide, but this is something that a table of organization is something that I had asked Mr. Marks to prepare. Again, when you are emailed the slides or when they show up in the newsletter, you can see this. It's a bit of a disclaimer. This was part of his, Mr. Marks's departmental budget presentation, but and he wanted me to communicate that this is a very conceptual, it's a conceptual graphic representation of the proposed table of organization. Everything is spelled out in the municipal code though, and there are going to have to be some changes made to the code to be consistent with that. So, but I did just want to share that. That's the disclaimer. All right. Really quick, let's see, 8:04. So I know Norberto gave a really great presentation about all of the different traffic and safety related improvements that have been happening. I mean, they've been a lot of improvements have been done. Traffic calming measures have been implemented in the last year and a half that I know of. And so just wanted to highlight, just examples of things that we've passed by ordinance, particular to the 4th Ward. They're multi-way stop intersections, as well as we prohibited parking on Woodland Avenue, which actually I believe Councilor Toller had initiated that based on some issues around safety, problematic sightlines, things like that. So those are two, just an example. Clary Anderson Arena. This wonderful, facility that's been neglected for so long. So the last council had passed a bond ordinance in the amount of about $6 million, I believe it was. This council decided to cancel that, and instead, Mr. Marks actually developed a kind of an interesting solution, which is to create a utility so that the Clary Anderson Arena could basically, through the operations, pay for itself. And so this was sort of proposed as a cost-saving measure for the town, and also to have sort of a shared public-private partnership. We wanted to create an environment where kids, not just hockey families, but kids, adults, the public could have more opportunities to do public skate and to gather and make memories. So this was a solution that was proposed, and we passed unanimously the measure to cancel the first bond ordinance and issue a new one, where we provided funding for some really urgent improvements to be made, so that the rink could be used, and additionally bonds to finance the cost for that. In addition, a nonprofit organization, Clary Anderson Arena Association, did a lot of work, a major fundraising effort to raise funds for this, and we brought in a new operator called Sports Facilities Management, which is, they are also the company that operate the rink up at MSU. And the grand reopening happened just last week. So I would really, love for the word to be spread. This is only going to be successful if people use the rink and spread the word. And so there will be continuing work. This is an ongoing project, but I think it's good news. Public transportation. So as some of you might know, and I think there are a couple of people here who have been working on this. Back in May, the council established a working group under the mobility committee to look at New Jersey Transit service and the possibility of, we want to encourage more use of public transportation within town and, from to and from Montclair. So there were two subcommittees that were established, one looking at New Jersey Transit and the other looking at the possibility of establishing or reestablishing a town shuttle bus or a jitney service. So both of these committees decided that it would be a good idea to gather public input. The shuttle bus is going to be something that's going to require, funding on an ongoing basis, and we also would need to find out, where do people think routes should be? Like, what would people use it for? What do people think about, how much it should cost to ride a shuttle bus? Things like that. And so that survey, the next slide. The shuttle bus jitney survey was launched this past August. We got over 2,500 responses, and we are currently completing the data analysis so that we can share a report and formulate some recommendations for the council to consider and for the public to be able to weigh in on. The other survey is for New Jersey Transit. Back in June, We were able to meet with Chris Calori, who is the current president until at least January of New Jersey Transit, and his senior staff. We also, in that same meeting, was Commissioner Brendan Gill, Assemblywoman Alexon Collasos Gill, and a representative from Senator John McKeon's office. And so we presented some data and some ideas for what might be possible, specifically hourly train service, potentially going up to MSU, basically past Bay Street, as well as bus service during off-peak weekday hours and weekend on the weekends because of the camp. We have no bus service definitely during the weekend. So it was a good meeting, but they expressed, and we had sort of anticipated that we would need to gather some data and resident input. So, we worked with Mr. Calori, President Calori offered the services and the assistance of his team. We developed a survey, and it's just been launched, and hopefully we'll get a really robust response. I have paper flyers on the table over there with a QR code. We would really like to have a lot of responses and analyze the data because it'll be shared with NJT and it will help them formulate their response. Also, I just wanted to let you know, since our train line goes through other towns, that there is a small regional committee. So the leadership of Bloomfield and Glen Ridge are also going to be launching their version of the same survey. Overnight street parking, this is just a reminder. In general, our town prohibits on-street parking overnight, and the ordinance, our ordinance lists a bunch of streets where the prohibition doesn't apply. Soon after this current council took office, some of us started getting a lot of emails from people who questioned why they couldn't park overnight on their streets, and there was even a petition that was passed around from a resident in the 4th Ward. And so this is something that we quickly tried to jump on. We recently passed an amendment to the ordinance that added a lot of new streets. And one thing that we kind of wanted to do, and we discussed, is how do we determine which streets should be approved and be added to this list. And so we discussed certain criteria like, quarter mile from the nearest parking lot, or the percentage of homes, residences on that street, on that block, with no parking or insufficient parking for the residents. So those were some of the criteria that we tried to apply in deciding which streets should be approved. But I just wanted to remind anyone who is living on one of those streets that permits are still required. It's $45 for a monthly resident pass, as opposed to, I think it's about $5 per night. And that's where you can find the list of streets. Okay, quick time check. And then finally, these are just a sampling of the other things that are in progress. The council is working together on an initiative that happened, that was started last summer for, to try to bring some consistency and better transparency for agenda creation and how our meetings are going to be, what items are going to be on each meeting agenda. We are also continuing and hopefully wrapping up soon in the next few months our search for a permanent township attorney. Election day polling sites. So this is something that Councilor Harrison and I and others on the council have been just starting to talk about. So I don't know about you, but when I moved to town, I didn't understand why schools had to be closed every time there was an election. So with all of the elections coming, I mean, we all know that the special election for December 9th was canceled. But we have 5 elections in 2026, and that means the schools would have to be closed for all of those. So I've been working, I've initiated a discussion with some members of the BOE and Commissioner Gill's office, and talked to some people who are interested in helping on this. And we found out that there was a list of alternative sites that was provided to the district earlier this year. It's not really clear to me what happened, but at the end of, in late October, the district received a communication from the county that basically rejected the sites for either because of ADA issues or logistical, but we're trying to get more information about, more details about each site and why they were rejected. And I'm hoping that we will be able to get some alternative sites approved sometime next year so that we don't have to keep closing schools. This is affecting families, parents who need to find and pay for childcare, people who work. So this is, to me, I think it's a very important issue. Property revaluation is something that was that's going to be done through 2028. I don't know if you want to say anything further about that, Bill, but it's just it's just it's to basically make sure that property owners are being taxed properly, right? I forgot the terminology that I was supposed to use, but sorry, it's late. Okay, yeah. So anyway, if you have any questions about that, that's a long process. The main thing that you need to know is that it's being required of us by the county, and it's not just Montclair, it's many other municipalities. So so that's going to be completed in 2028. So that means your tax bills with the new valuation of your property are going to be issued sometime in 2028. Community solar is another project. The council passed a resolution to approve a contract with a company called Gable Associates to help us with an RFP process. We are trying to implement this program through this RFP for lower and moderate income households in Montclair who could be opted in. They're automatically opted in. You can opt out to receive solar energy, which would be billed through your regular PSC&G bill. And it's different from prior community solar programs, and Gable would be responsible for doing all the education and the outreach. And households that are eligible could they could realize up to about 36% or so savings if they opt into this program. So this is something that I'm hoping that we can offer because, as we all know, utility bills are rising and rising, and this is just maybe one small way that we can help. The tree ordinance, we do have a tree ordinance that speaks to removal and replacement, but we have to update it because to be consistent with the New Jersey State Model Ordinance. So that is something that we're going to be working on in the next few months. Lisa is going to be helping us with that. One key thing that we want to do is make sure that this ordinance is enforceable and can be operationalized. So we're trying to be really careful because we don't want to have another ordinance that isn't enforced properly. So, but trees, as we all know, are very important to mitigate storm water and the environment. They're good for the environment. So we want to have a strong ordinance in place that we can enforce. And one of the things that we're considering doing is making clear as part of the permitting process that we're going to collect data for why people are asking to remove their trees, which is something that it's a data point that we haven't been collecting. We're also working on a valet parking ordinance, which particularly has, there's some issues in the 3rd Ward specifically. So that is also something we are considering. I'm told that there was a draft valet ordinance that was circulating a few years ago, but didn't get any traction. But we are looking at that again. We are also, within the EDC, we are looking at regulation of Airbnbs. So a lot of these are, we don't have, we're still in the process of developing, policy proposals. So if you all have, if any of this speaks to you, if you would like to offer any thoughts, please feel free to email us and so we can really get some input before we put something to paper. The last thing that is an amendment to the filming ordinance, which is also based on some concerns that residents had on a particular, some streets that seem to have a lot of filming going on, and so we're looking at ways we can make things better for the residents, and also, we don't want to prohibit filming altogether, but we want to make sure that safety and resident concerns about things that are going on in their neighborhood are properly addressed. That's it. So yeah, our Bill's contact information is there. I'm there. Yeah, if there are any, I think we have about 10 minutes for questions. I think you're going to get a mic.
Thank you for this information. First, I want to ask about the municipal building and the police department. Can you share any of the alternative sites that you're considering and what the budget may potentially be? And then why not redevelop the site where the current municipal building is and the PNC Bank, which was purchased and is just sitting there vacant? And has any real thought gone into what's required to go into these buildings, especially if you combine the police department? Right now, it'd be really interesting to hear what alternative sites there may be, the budget, and the rest of that. And then I have one more thing I want to say.
Okay, so main goal at this point is to get input from the public as to what they think, but then to be answer your question, if we certainly an option would be to redevelop the current municipal building site, but that would mean that for a couple of years we would have to find an alternate site to do that. A contract has been awarded for the demolition of the bank on the adjacent property, and we're waiting for that contractor to proceed. So, and we're actually pushing that contractor to proceed, but that is going to happen, and on a temporary basis, they'll provide more parking at the municipal site. Currently it's being used for parking, the available parking spaces. I'm going to give you some of the sites that have been raised by members of the public, and I'm not saying and these are good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying some sites have been meant. The Mills building has been raised, Immaculate Conception High School, and there's some parking lots associated with the school. The Mills building has been proposed as a site. The location of the police department, that area has been proposed, and that's a redevelopment area that's that we need to come up with a plan for. Trying to think of what else has been. The decamp parcel is one of the sites that's been suggested. But we're looking for a lot of options. We may don't rely on 7 council members to come up with all the best possible options. But and at the point we have them, then we're going to start narrowing them down based on what the cost factors are.
Right. Okay. But which is going to be important. All of the ones I just heard, the decamp site seems to be the most viable. I mean, based off of the infrastructure, the Mills building doesn't seem to be a viable location. But the other
answer
thing,
one of your earlier, we have had discussions with the police department about the feasibility of having them in the same location, or whether certain of the police functions have to be separate. But though we've had those discussions with the police department.
Okay, thank you for sharing that information. I wanted to switch really quickly, and this will be my last question, regarding the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment update. Where specifically can we find the redevelopment plan on the website? Is that on the planning site? Oh.
But
Yeah.
the township website has the redevelopment plan.
Yes, I know.
it.
On the planning site?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no problem. And then the last thing I wanted to ask is regarding the status of the agreement and the financial agreement, which we know you can't go into any great details, but can you explain just generally what the financial agreement concerns are or what that entails for the public?
The financial agreement goes into whether there will be a pilot, and if so, what the amounts of the pilot and the duration of the pilot. I'm not going. Well, it's negotiated with the redeveloper. It's not, we can't totally dictate it, you know, but that's as far as I can go. I'm
Continuing with that same idea, we've been at this for now, 15 years. Can you please give an idea, a ballpark, what the expected gross revenue is from this agreement coming, the net revenue, and how many students are expected to come out of the project? So we can get an idea whether this is fiscally viable. The original attempt at a fiscal analysis showed that it was not particularly viable fiscally, so it's time to start putting some numbers on the table, even if you're in negotiations.
Martin, I'm not sure what you're asking as to the developer provided us with his cost estimates to build the project. We had an independent, township retained an independent analyst to evaluate those numbers, and that's one of the things that's under consideration.
Back to the township
The-
after
Martin, you know I'm not going to go into the details, but one of the part of the calculation is what revenues will be coming to the township. You know, and one thing, just because I know there's a misconception as to how a pilot works, the land tax stays the same as it is, gets divided up between the county, the school district, and the township, same as it is. It's only for the buildings that, if there is a pilot, that the pilot would be applied for.
Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to address Ms. Malloy's a couple of things. So just so you know, the little parking lot next to the 205, that is meant to be created. That's going to be converted to parking for the senior hub, and then the DeCamp site, which is an intriguing site. My understanding is, that there are some potential environmental issues that would have to be remediated. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Hi.
I wanted to ask about the senior hub. You talked about how badly the municipal building is in need of repair, and yet that is where we've been offered a site for the senior hub. I'm confused.
The issues with the municipal building relate largely to the third floor because of the problems with the roof. You'll be on the first floor where.
But if we're not keeping that building, why are we putting all this money into it? For one room to meet, some people to have their own offices? I mean.
I was not on the council, so when that decision was made, so I don't know.
I just wanted to mention that the senior hub that you're referring to the money is grant money that we have to spend by a certain date or time. So this isn't money that's going to cost you money.
But why spend it?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll try to address it. I don't know if this is gonna, satisfy you, but yes, with regards to the building, what Bill says is correct. With respect to, the idea that we're going to be vacating this building, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And the desire was, we wanted to create a space for senior programs, for some of the technological education classes that seniors want to have and be able to have their own dedicated space. So this was, given the fact that there's grant money available, given the fact that there's available space that we could work with, this is a proposal, this is an idea that was developed, and this is I think, in my view, it should be a short-term solution, but we don't, like I said, we have no idea when we are going to be vacating this space.
Hi, everyone. Frank Rabacki. I'm from the First Ward. They're really comments more than questions because of the time tonight. As far as Lackawanna is concerned and the financial agreement, I'm just a little sensitive about. I have a concern that I want you to carry forward with you about what happens to the financial agreement if there's a lapse in the supermarket use. Does the financial agreement address that possibility? Things like the liquor license, the type of liquor license that's currently available there is not unique, it's an unusual license that if it's spread over the entire complex is a lot different than just having a single use. And does the reevaluation affect the negotiation of the terms or the conditions of the financial agreement? And again, I'm not looking for an answer, but these are my concerns. One last thing is, I have an idea. It's wacky. Clary Anderson, it's a utility. It's effectively a sports utility. Our desperate friends, your fellow governing body over the Board of Education, need help. They're putting out a hand. Why don't you buy Aubrey Lewis from them and fold it into a sports utility? And that way the township can funnel some money to the schools and get something in return and some amount of control. Thank you.
Just what the I'll just leave it there. The township actually sold Woodman Field to the Board of Education many years ago.
Yes. Okay. So I basically, you're a land use attorney. You know a lot of things to do with land use. I have a question for you. So you mentioned that there possibility of a redevelopment agreement being for the what's it called, the Western Gateway area, the area where the Leach Building is and the police department, and also by Mission Street and Hartley, another redevelopment agreement there. But when I look at, I've lived on Walnut Street now for about 20 years, and in that time period, I saw Walnut Street just grow organically, store open, without any kind of government, you could call it interference, or redevelopment plans, though I understand Ms. Talley is talking about a redevelopment plan now for Walnut Street. Really, what is the benefit to having a redevelopment plan? We've had so much controversy over Lackawanna Plaza. If we didn't have a designated redevelopment plan, perhaps things could have been different. I mean, China has built 100,000 houses in 10 years that we've been looking at Lackawanna Plaza. So I'm just mystified by why always this redevelopment agreement. And then there's also a redevelopment plan. And then there's also the fact that the people in education are unhappy that they don't get what they believe would be a fair share of the tax revenue. So it causes a lot of controversy. But why not just let the current zoning prevail and not go for these redevelopment plans?
Okay, I'm going to give different answers to different things. First, I want to do Walnut Street because what happened and is happening on Walnut Street actually started with a Board of Adjustment approval of the Hudson Place restaurant there, which was the first, what I'll call, real restaurant on that stretch of Walnut Street. And once that opened and was a success, everything happened after that. But there was a government decision to give them the variance they needed to do that. So, but, and I think one of the options for the Elm to Mission Street redevelopment area is just to go back to the original zoning and let that evolve. I think in terms of Lackawanna Plaza, what is there now happened through redevelopment long ago, but and it's a question of, you probably don't want the 3-hour answer to this question. It's a question of, will the properties be redeveloped without government assistance? And there are criteria in municipal land use law which have to be found in order to designate an area in need of redevelopment, which, this is not a Montclair comment, this is my land use lawyer comment. Towns sometimes abuse to facilitate a particular development versus what might happen on its own. But if the redevelopment law process is followed as it should be, it can enable development of properties that would not otherwise be developed in a positive way. And I think, without going into what was actually built, I think the developments that have occurred on the south side of Bloomfield Avenue, going from Willow on up to Orange Road, I think those would not have happened without the areas being designated as areas in need of redevelopment. I think, the Elm to Mission was done to try and integrate Bullock School into the neighborhood and improve some of the transportation in the area. And once the Board of Education said, we're doing what we're doing and we don't care, that became a meaningless plan because that was like 2/3 of the redevelopment area. So I think it depends on the situation as to whether redevelopment, designating an area in need of redevelopment is beneficial or not.
Is that on the website as well? Oh, the reason I ask is because the impact study can't just be for the immediate area. Earlier we talked about different traffic calming or traffic issues that kind of reverberate out. So we've got the schools in the vicinity, you've got the train schedule, the train tracks, you've got emergency vehicles, then you'll have the supermarket, etc. So how far out a radius will the traffic impact study be for this particular project, if that's available? Or has it been done yet? Oh, okay.
When the project comes before the planning board for site plan approval, that is a decision the planning board has to make as to what area they want covered. That's not a decision that's been made yet.
Okay.
I mean, there were, in the process of doing the redevelopment plan, the township had a traffic study done, but at this point, that's a very dated study.
Right. I'm familiar with the process, and that's why I asked, and I remember the study you're just mentioning. So I think it should be something that's considerate of a larger radius than the immediate area.
In rereading it today, I don't remember the exact, that type of specificity, just that it should be comprehensive. But yes, I would have imagined that it would have to be determined by the planning board. But we can confirm that.
Oh. Okay, I had a question, and
Is parking included with that? So I feel like traffic study is a little bit.
Right, but parking is separate. The redevelop. The redevelopment plan specified parking requirements and for the development. And what is being proposed is consistent with what's in the redevelopment plan. But that's another consideration. Absolutely, parking is different from traffic. And the nice developer who's sitting behind you will have different witnesses probably addressing both of those issues. But it is, they're interrelated, but whether there are enough parking spaces on the site is one issue versus is there going to be a traffic jam 3 streets away is a different issue.
Exactly, because we've had a lot of development, and I think parking has been an issue in Montclair because of that.
So we have one more.
yeah, I had a question. If you don't mind, give me a moment here. I spend a lot of time looking at the tax system because I investigate ownership of properties and the transfer of property, and I happen to notice that this company BDP has a number of properties and the taxes haven't been paid, and I just wanted to know, number one, is the tax system up to date? I hope it is, but because I know there are some issues with the tax assessor. And then if these taxes have not been paid, what impact, I mean, it seems to me that should have some sort of impact on any type of negotiation that the township, is having with BDP.
I can only get in trouble by answering that question. The financial viability of the developer to proceed with the project is something that is part of the township's consideration on the financial agreement. Is, I think, the safe way to answer that, and I'll know in due course if I stepped on toes. But I one of the concerns for any redevelopment agreement is, and any financial agreement is, does the developer have the wherewithal to develop the project? I'm not, not just Lackawanna, and that's something when I've represented developers and I've represented municipalities, that's always been part of the discussion.
And when the issue of a penalty for non-payment of taxes was brought up at the council meetings, I guess that was last night, and we talked about a percentage. Is that the same for residential properties as for LLCs and nonprofits and all of that? I mean, if BDP Holdings owes money on other than his residential.
I'm not going into hypotheticals as to.
Penalty that we're talking about assessing for non-payment of taxes or late payment on a residence as opposed to a business.
Okay, nonprofits are different, generally it's tax exempt. The in terms of the penalties for not paying taxes are the same for any taxpayer.
Because I really appreciate your diplomatic way of needing to answer the questions. Generally, if someone is unable to or does not pay their taxes, any financial agreement, like you said, the wherewithal, they have to demonstrate the wherewithal in order to either complete the project or have been a good steward otherwise. And nonprofits may be tax exempt, but if they have real estate and they're responsible for paying taxes, they are not.
Okay, but I definitely do not want to get into, for a nonprofit to be tax exempt from property taxes, the property has to be used for charitable purposes. The nonprofits that are created, the urban renewal entities that are required to be created to do a redevelopment, they are not exempt from paying taxes.
All right, well, we went a little bit over, but we wanted to thank everyone for coming and being so engaged. You have our contact information. Again, we can share the slides. If anyone needs a parking validation, please come see me. And I don't know where the sign-in sheet went, but please make sure that you provide your information if you want to be on the email list. Thank you.